I'm Beck and welcome to a cozy video. Even though in Australia it is spring, it is still cold enough to be considered fall. Everyone seems to be into the fall aesthetic lately, so I thought what better way to celebrate alongside everyone than do this video. So the first prompt in the video is called Crunching Leaves, and that is share some books that have red, orange and yellow kind of fall themed colours. And straight away this book popped to mind because it is one of my favourite fantasies, The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. This is a staple for any fantasy lover, and it also has red sprayed pages. So this is one of the editions that I find very close to my heart. It's very special to me. It's also signed by the author, so it's pretty much one of my most prized book possessions. Another recent favourite that I wanted to show off because it's also, you know, orange and red is Raven Song by TJ Klune, which is the sequel to Wolf Song, one of my most favourite series of all time. And this also just has that cozy small town vibe, which I feel is very Halloweeny, and it's also following a group of werewolves that are like found family and actual family. So I feel like it fits the theme of, you know, cozy fall, but also potentially Halloween as well. Then I was like, what other red books do I have? And I looked straight at my Percy Jackson collection, and House of Hades jumped right out because it is so bright and red. And I wasn't sure if this one counted because the whole cover isn't like orange or red, not like House of Hades or Raven Song anywhere near that level, but it does have reds and oranges on it. So I wanted to shout out Parable of the Sower because it's a fantastic book, but its character on the front is in red and then the spine is yellow. So I figured this also counted. Next up, the prompt is Cozy Sweater, and it says it's finally getting cold enough to don some warm clothing. What book gives you the warm fuzzies? I would honestly say that the Wolf Song or Green Creek series gives me the warm fuzzies in terms of the found family, the relationship dynamics in here, the support. I just teared up so much with the loyalty and the love in this series, but also it gave me such emotional damage and trauma that I would say it's also not warm fuzzies. Like, it's got very high stakes. So yes, warm fuzzies, but also pain. The author that I'd like to spotlight instead is Becky Chambers because she really captures that warm vibe, and specifically this happens in her Monk and Robot series where a traveling tea monk decides that they don't really want to do this job for the rest of their lives, and so they take a course off the beaten path and they run into an unlikely and unexpected friend. And I just really like the atmosphere of that book. It tells you to, you know, slow down, take a cup of tea, reimagine and reinvigorate yourself, and it's just a really beautiful tone. So I've got the audiobook actually out from the library and I want to reread it very soon. It's a very short novella and it's only got one sequel, so it's a duology, it's very contained, and it's just really sweet. So those definitely give me warm, cozy, fuzzy vibes, and I would very much like to reread them while it's very cold outside. Then we've got Fall Storm. The wind is howling and the rain is pounding. Choose your favorite book or genre that you would like to read on a stormy day. I do like reading longer books in the cold because I find that it doesn't make me feel as guilty to sit inside if the weather's bad and read a book. I gravitate to longer books, as I'm sure a lot of people do as well. So for this I might go with a completed high epic fantasy series called The Ruin of Kings, and this is a 5-book series, so you can just marathon it while there's a storm outside. I'm sure, you know, they're thick, it's 800 pages, but it's so worth it. The next prompt is Cool Crisp Air, and it says, what's the coolest character you'd want to trade places with? But most characters I read about experience trauma, emotional turmoil, usually bodily harm, being on the run, like stabbing, destructive magic, and I'm like, I'm very comfortable on my own couch. My favorite authors, for example, Brandon Sanderson, bodily harm, citywide rebellion. Robin Hobb, severe emotional trauma and damage, also found family and love, but like trauma. Then again, Wolf Song, you know, I've said before, emotional damage, trauma. And The Ruin of Kings, which is like dragons, heists, stabbings, being on the run. I would say that Becky Chambers has the most approachable atmosphere because I like her coziness. Although in this book, being on an actual spaceship for the amount of time that these characters have to be on one for doing a long haul through space so they can punch a wormhole from A to B, it's a cool concept and I loved reading about it, but I think personally I just get very claustrophobic. So as far as the coolest character goes that I'd want to trade places with, like nobody, but in terms of the setting, I would love to be in a tavern. Like on fantasy quests, they usually go to a cozy tavern, they get a nice warm meal, they're by a fireplace, and that's a vibe that I could get behind. But a tavern I can go to in my real life, so that is more than enough for me. Maybe I can bring a high fantasy book and read it at the tavern in front of the fire. Next up is Hot Apple Cider, and that is what underhyped book do you want to see become the next like hottest, biggest thing? And I've got 2 for this because these are 2 fantastic dystopian apocalyptic books and they're my favorites. And I've seen people talk about them before, so it's not like they're completely underhyped, like they're not entirely unknown, but they're also books that deserve way more hype than they have, and I feel like a lot more people need to read them. So Midwife is following a character who wakes up after getting a disease or a virus. 99.9% of people die, but she's in that very small, like 0.1% that have survived. And in the survivors, there is a possibility of more men surviving than women. So she disguises herself as a man, traversing this apocalyptic wasteland to try and find women. And whenever she comes across them, because she's a midwife, she helps them in any medical way that she can, but she also has to grasp who she is in this apocalyptic landscape with basically nobody to talk to. She does run into different characters over time as well. So I loved seeing all of that character work happen, and I have reread it and it still stands up. So I want more people to read it. And then for Parable of the Sower, Octavia E. Butler is an author that people know about already. It's an apocalyptic survival story, and Lauren, our main character, she's religious but kind of deviating from her father's religion. He's a preacher, and all of the survivors in her camp have these walls around them, but one day obviously the walls come down, otherwise it wouldn't be a story. There has to be an inciting action, and Lauren has to then survive in the land after leaving this camp, and she's seen a lot of death and destruction, and it's about her trying to find hope and instigate hope in others as well. And I love how she almost like finds her own religion, like she creates it herself, and it's more about connecting to the earth. And I really loved that about this story as well. So these are two fantastic apocalyptic stories, and I feel like more people should read them because they are well worth reading. I do plan on rereading this soon, and I've reread this one a few times, so they are fantastic. Then we've got Coats, Scarves and Mittens. The weather has turned cold, it's time to cover up. What is the most embarrassing book cover you own and that you want to keep hidden in public? This question feels like it was aimed at all of those romance books that might have a naked torso on the front cover or something, so that it's very clearly marketed as a very romantic focused book. And I don't have any books that have that on the cover. The romances I do have the nice like illustrated pictures, so you can kind of get away with reading them wherever you want to read them, to be honest. And I also listen to a lot of audiobooks, so I find that I tend to read more romance that way, so that has been something I have skirted around. But if I had to pick anything for this question, because I thought of this immediately as soon as I read it, I would choose this book because Hero of Ages is supposed to depict Vin, and she is a young woman. Does this cover not scream Supernatural to you? Like, Driver Fix the Music. Surely this is Jensen Ackles. Like, I can't unsee it now that I've seen it. Dean Winchester, what are you doing in Mistborn? I just really don't like this cover. I feel like people wouldn't really care about seeing this one in public, but personally I just don't want to put it on display. So thankfully I have the audiobooks for Mistborn, so my reread will be on audio. Then I've got 2 questions left, but the last one is who would you tag? So if you want to do this, please do. I never know who to tag. And then the final question for this is pumpkin spice. What is your favorite fall-time comfort book or food? And I should be evicted from fall because I don't like pumpkin spice. I don't like pumpkin pie. It's just not my thing. I want to like it, but it's not my thing. So what do I go to instead? Usually a hot chocolate, a hot cocoa, a decaf coffee. I also really like chai, so I'll have a chai if you want that like spice or cinnamon. I love gingerbread, but that's more of a Christmas thing, even though it makes me think of like spice and fall. And I love chocolate chip cookies, like fresh baked chocolate chip cookies. I might be tempted to go and make some after filming this video. But that is all from me for this cozy book tag. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'll come chat to you down below in the comments, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.